morning and welcome to We Got Options with the Doctor and Son, a show about maintaining our overall mental health and wellness. Happy Friday. Today we're going to talk about Entrepreneurship 101. And we decided we would choose this topic because a lot of times we're realizing that everyone has dreams and everyone has goals. A lot of times people don't know when and where or even how to get started. So, one of the things we wanted to start talking about is entrepreneurship, giving people some ideas of when, where, and how to get started. And then also really considering the fact that when you go into entrepreneurship, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of brain power, a lot of physical power. So, one of the things we also want to talk about is making sure we're able to maintain our sanity when it comes to entrepreneurship. In our shows to come, we will have some entrepreneurs coming on the show with us. So we want to kind of introduce Entrepreneurship 101 because I think that's something that a lot of people would love to jump into, but just don't know how. Just don't know when. Again, just don't know, when the time will be right, how it can, play out for them. And then some of the things to look forward to, some of the things that come up with entrepreneurship. So today we're going to have a great conversation about that and just kind of talk a little bit, start off with what is entrepreneurship? A lot of times when we do think of entrepreneurship, it's talking about starting a business. And as far as starting a business, a lot of times that's a turning point in people's lives where they realize that, oh yeah, I'm going to start this business. But the other part of that is I have to turn a profit. So it's a lot to deal with when you're thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to stop working, or I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to create a side hustle in order to build it up to be able to stop working one day. But in all of that, you still got to remember that you still have to, intentionally turn a profit. You definitely, that's the biggest part of starting a business. So a lot of times people think about starting businesses. I think we're in the best time ever to consider starting a business due to the fact that we have the internet. Brick and mortar type businesses, that is still an option, of course. But I think a lot of times people are trying to find different ways to start building and start to, create these ideas for businesses. What are your thoughts when it comes down to entrepreneurship and where people are and what they're thinking nowadays? And, some of your friends, some of your, colleagues, what are some of the things that you're seeing right now with entrepreneurship and kind of just thinking about getting started and having those new creative ideas, especially with the internet?
When you start an entrepreneurship, it should basically be there's not a like when you start, it's just you need to start. Like or
Mm-hmm.
they start making preparations to start.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about when, because it's when you feel that you're ready, but you don't want to wait on it.
I agree because I think people wait. It's almost like we always say in my family, we say having a baby is like there's no perfect time to have a kid. You just sometimes end up just having a kid and then you roll with the punches. So I feel that's the same thing when it comes down to, I mean, definitely you can plan for kids, don't get me wrong. But when it's time to grow a family and things like that, sometimes things just happen. So I would say it's kind of like entrepreneurship. If you want to have a business that has some longevity to it and things like that, yeah, it's never the best time, the greatest time when, to start. That's never really a question.
I
It's
mean,
just start.
that's with everything. You just have to just take the plunge.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And I think people sometimes, don't realize, what it takes or, don't know where to start or how to do things. So I think for the most part, some of the things we're going to jump into next is going to be just talking about, what is entrepreneurship? Or what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who got a lot of great ideas, a person that really wants to put whatever they feel they're solving a problem for the world or for certain consumers. They're trying to put that idea out there and be able to turn a profit from it, be able to have goods and services, whatever it is they're going to be, selling to people for the most part, or whatever. For the service part, sometimes I tell people, when it comes down to your services, it just depends, what you're going to do. Sometimes we have, different types of businesses that does have great components to it, but who are you servicing? Who's going to be, who are you going to work with? So I think that's something to talk about as well. And then I think as we continue on here, we're going to talk about the different types of entrepreneurship, of course. We definitely want to get into talking about being able to scale your business, large corporations for the most part, being your own boss. Another thing we'll definitely explore and consider is being a serial entrepreneur, being able to look at the levels of being a serial entrepreneur and what that calls for and what that looks like for some people, but definitely being able to focus on what it takes to start a small business, large business, scalable business, to be able to get individuals in the mindset that ownership is a great start, especially for a lot of young folks. So with that, we are going to actually get ready to go to commercial break, and we hope to hear that you're coming back with us with We Got Options with the Doctor and Son radio show. And welcome back to We Got Options with the Doctor and Son. Today we're talking about Entrepreneurship 101. And earlier we talked about when, as far as, starting a business now. And we talked about where. We did talk a little bit about the brick and mortar, setting up, a store or setting up a office. And then we also spoke about where, as far as the internet. That is a big business right now. Starting any type of business that would be virtual is a big craze right now. Everyone's kind of getting into it. Everyone's finding kind of their little niche with it. And so with that being said, we've talked about when, we've talked about where. Now let's talk about how. Dealing with some of the preparation, some of the things that you would do if you're considering leaving your job or starting your business as a side hustle until you actually are ready to jump out there and do the real thing and get everything going and have everything in place and fire your boss and be your own boss. So one of the things that I like to tell individuals is, really start from the beginning with preparation. And I tell people starting preparation way before you're ready to go is always a big thing, because you can go ahead and get your Secretary of State registered with your state. You can go ahead and take care of that information. You can go ahead and get your business county tax information in place if you would like. You can go ahead and get your EIN number from the federal government. All these things come with a small fee. The EIN number with the federal government is actually free, but everything else is like, a small fee, whatever your state fee is or whatever your county fees are. Those are things. And I tell individuals, starting a business before you're ready really to jump out there and do the business is a good idea when it comes down to the longevity of the business and when it comes down to like business credit and things like that when you're ready to get started. I myself can say that I started one of my business 3 years before I was actually ready to do something. And I started it early because I was doing a little bit here and there on the side. And my accountant said, hey, why don't we go ahead and make sure that everything's in place and move forward with it. And so that's what we did. And it wasn't until almost 4 or 5 years later that I was actually turning a profit and making some money. So, what are your thoughts when it comes down to, the preparation?
I mean, we also talk about preparation. If you're bringing others on, which, some businesses you will have to bring others on, how much are you going to pay them? How much is that going to take out of your bottom line? How much? And the idea when you first start is how much money do you want to make to the money that you want to make. I'm losing it. The money that you want to make for
to take care of yourself,
take care
of your own personal needs, everyday expenses for the business,
as well as like expenses for yourself and the business.
Right. So basically, how much is the overhead for the business?
Like how much would you personally need?
Yeah. How much you will need and how much you're going to do for the overhead of the business. But I will say this, sometimes when we think about how much money you need, a lot of times I tell people it's nice to go ahead and stay with your current job, because if you stay with your current job, that can take care of most of your personal expenses. Anything the business is making can just go back into the business and keep on, growing the business, because that's kind of what I did starting out as well. Was a lot of my profit that was being made was turned right back over into the business to help grow the business. So that's also
you can never really go initially just flying out there without any support whatsoever.
Absolutely. And then, so when we're talking about, preparation, with them being so many different types of entrepreneurship, we're only going to talk about a few. Being a small business entrepreneur, that's always the big thing. Like you said, thinking about how much you're going to pay, what overhead you're going to have in place, things of that nature. Of course, there are scalable startups as well. Individuals talk about scalable startups. A lot of times they have high value investments going into these types of businesses. And these are things that they feel like, really could change the world. Business that can be easily duplicated a lot of times, where you can have it to the point where you can, scale it. Another type of business would be a large company. Some people want to develop a large company, one that they're definitely going to have innovative products and be able to sell services that are going to be innovative for the most part. And they're going to be able to, a lot of times, new technology has been the big part when it comes to these large companies that are coming about. And then social entrepreneurs. Social entrepreneurs are individuals that focus on making the world better. So they focus on basically solving social issues and trying to move forward. And a lot of times it could be a nonprofit. That's another, part of entrepreneurship as well, having a nonprofit business. Some people will do a for-profit business, and then some people do hybrid businesses as well, remote type things on the internet, businesses on the internet. So again, those are different, things to come across when we talk about the preparation, is figuring out what we're preparing for, And then I think, a lot of times, like I said earlier, everybody want to fire their boss and be their own boss. And that's a big thing too. I think a lot of people get into that because they want to make their own schedule. They're tired of working for others, and they're tired of, making other people rich, is what a lot of people say. But I tell people, you got to have that's great to have some self-motivation and saying things like that. But it's also just wanting to be independent, and also wanting to be, definitely a big part of the community, and to be able to support the new marketplace, and be able to work in the community and help people as much as possible. So again, being your own boss is a great thing. Yes. Then thinking about,
but, you'll always, when you're first starting out, need the support of your previous job.
Yes. Like I tell people all the time, thinking about a side gig or thinking about having your job after hours, I think that's always a great thing. So we'll be back after these messages. And thanks for tuning back in to We Got Options with the Doctor and Son radio show. Today, we're wrapping things up, and we're talking about entrepreneurship. So we're going to finish things up in this last little segment here. When we're talking about entrepreneurship, we talked a little bit about when, where, we talked about preparation. Now we want to talk about just the motivation and just getting into it, just to be a successful entrepreneur. A lot of times I tell people, you definitely have to have you have to want some autonomy. You want to be able to, of course, be your own boss. But with that comes with a lot of different things. That comes with, being able to time manage well.
Yeah, because it's a very Rome wasn't built in a day situation.
Absolutely. And what's that saying you always tell me? It's not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
Yes, that's the thing you always tell me. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And then considering a lot of people thinking about the purpose, having your vision, your mission, what is it that you're wanting to accomplish? And the work, of course, would be very much tirelessly done, because it's going to be a lot of work.
Yes. Yeah, you can't be really afraid to be afraid to fail in this type of track that you're on.
Yes, you have to be genuine in what you're doing. You have to, not be.
It's not a failing point. It is a point of experience.
Oh yeah, the failing point is that is experience. You're correct. Yeah, because the more you start to see what's not working, you will go back to the drawing board, readapt, and figure things out. You have to be pretty flexible when it comes down to having a business.
It's always great to have a team with you as well.
Oh, yeah.
When you do those things, people that you can talk to about it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because, as the old saying goes, two heads are better than one.
Absolutely. Having a sounding board, having some individuals that you can work with. If it's your family members, if it's professional folks out in the field that you end up creating a mastermind group or something like that, that's always beneficial.
Yeah. It can also come in with your preparation that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you might need to have a supplier lockdown on certain things that you need.
Mm-hmm. Well, with nonprofits, you have to have a board. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have a board in place. So that's another thing to think of. A lot of times thinking about some of the financial successes and some of the financial stresses that come along with starting a business also. I definitely tell people all the time, it's not for the weak.
Oh yeah, it will chew you up and spit you out.
Yes. Anything. Yes, absolutely. And then also talking about the legacy. So as an entrepreneur, you're creating something that's going to outlast you, hopefully. It's something that's going to be, it's going to go on and on. It's going to be a brand. It is definitely going to be something with some longevity, becomes like an institution. So a lot of times I tell individuals, so what is it that what do you want your legacy to be? I always ask that question when individuals come to me and ask me about, okay, what should I do? Or how should I go about doing this? Or, I just want to brainstorm with you. I get a lot of that, a lot of individuals wanting to brainstorm about, what can be done as a business and how they can figure out how to make it successful and things like that. So yes, definitely, I think understanding what your legacy is. What is
understanding what your overall plan is.
Yes, absolutely. And being definitely motivated. You have to be self-motivated when it comes down to business, when it comes down to being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yes.
Because, the nights will get rough, the times will get tough. You may have to take a hit here and there. It took a lot for my mom's first business to get off the ground. It took a lot more time than, it took more time than just a few months. It took years of
absolutely
bringing preparation, and maybe sometimes she had to say, boys, we might have to take a little bit of our own money to put into the business.
Absolutely. I think that was a big part of what people sometimes don't understand, that sometimes your business won't be making the income that you're expecting it to make, and you're going to have to take kind of like a shortcut, which is using your own money to do some things. Your own money may have to fund a lot of things starting out.
Which is exactly, which is the exact point of the reason why we said it is not a failure, it is a point of experience.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to fail, because that's your experience. That's what you need. Like I tell people, adapting and evolving. It's going to be a interesting scenario. But that's not to say that you can't get some coaching out here in the community. You can't work with people who can be able to help and assist you and move forward. So with that, also talking about entrepreneurship, opening up new markets and stimulating the economy, just being able to be a person that makes a difference, that puts something different out there in the community, out there in the world,
Yeah. And it's not also just inventing the wheel again. It's maybe making things smoother for the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Making more small adjustments. That's the world we live in now.
Yes, further social change in society. Definitely creating some things like that. Thinking about keeping that healthy balance in the economy, making sure that you are being a great person to add to, the growth, So with that being said, again, this is our first show talking about Entrepreneurship 101. And we really just wanted to share a little bit of, kind of what we understand and what we know for the most part. And then we also will be bringing some special guests in to be able to share with us and be able to talk a little bit more about entrepreneurships, because most of them will be entrepreneurs, new businesses, long lasting businesses. We will definitely have a great host of entrepreneurs come to join us in the next few weeks. So be sure to catch us next Friday. See you next time.